Hey guys, Helen Hartsmith here again with.
Cathy?
So, we're doing this.
We're going to try to do this.
We're gonna try to do this, guys. Oh my gosh, it's been a little while since so we're using Skype to record this, and it's been about a minute and a half since we've done this before. So, and this is why we don't like to do it, because it's a flippin' circus whenever we try to do it. But anyhow, so this video is going to be part of that article or that series that I am doing, that is based on the blog that Christopher Penzak wrote, over 50 things every witch should try at least once. We're gonna chook off one more thing, and this time we gonna do it together, and we gonna do it in style, and we're gonna have Cathy along for the ride.
We're going to try it.
We're gonna try it. So the item on the list that we're chooking off is make your own incense. It doesn't have to be fancy. Our apple pie spices in the kitchen make a good Jupiter prosperity incense. So Cathy and I, we've made incense before, yes?
Yes.
So I was talking to Cathy about this, and she's like, "Oh, that sounds like fun. I'll help." And I'm like, "How you gonna help? We can't be in the same place."
We'll manage.
We'll manage. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to demo two different ways to make incense. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to use the same recipe, and we're using the same herbs, but we're just going about it in a different way. So I'm going to be doing the easy method of making incense, which is mixing herbs together. And Cathy is actually going to be making incense cones. It's a paste that you can shape it into whichever shape you would like. So you can form it into cones, or Cathy has these delightful molds that she's now going to hold up for the camera. Some beautiful sun and moon molds. And you can pick those things up at your local craft stores.
Right.
In order to make incense.
You can also put them through an extruder. See, this has a circle on the tip. There are a number of tips. I don't know how well this is going to show. This one is square.
Mm-hmm.
There's a slotted one.
So you could basically squeeze out a long tube.
Exactly.
Is this what you would use to do the stick incense, maybe?
Actually, the method that I saw to do the stick incense was to take a straw, cut it in half, stick the wet incense in there, stick a straw through it, tighten it really well, let it sit a minute and pull it out. So I'm going off this book.
Okay, Incense, Crafting and Use of Magical Incense by Carl F. Neal. So I will put a link in the sorry, my screen went black, so note to self, Helen, we're going to have to touch that. I will put a link in the description box to Amazon if you're interested. And unfortunately, do you happen to have right there the Scott Cunningham book?
I do not. This is the only one I went to find.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, mine is out in the living room, and I can't get it readily, easily.
Mm-hmm.
But Scott Cunningham also has a book where he talks about incense, but there's also discussions in there about oils and lots of other things.
Yeah, this has that as well. It also has using the molds and making the sticks, the different aspects of making wet incense, dry incense. It has a whole bunch of recipes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's recipes in Scott's book as well.
It also has troubleshooting pages. There's lots of those, and an ingredients chart. So if you want a specific item, it'll list what it's for.
Okay.
The category, the elemental association, the traditional association.
Oh, nice.
Notes, how to find materials, and then there's some philosophies and rituals and just a lot of things. It's a pretty good book.
So it sounds like it's probably pretty close to Scott Cunningham's. I would be interested because that probably came out after Scott's. I'd be interested, is there a bibliography, and is Scott Cunningham's book listed as a reference? That would be really interesting.
Helen Dugan's book. Yeah, you mean this book right here?
That's the book right there.
It's a little spruce, yeah.
So I'll put a link while Cathy looks at that. I will put a link in the description box to get both of those books if you're interested. But what the recipe that we're going to follow today is completely homemade, and it's a from scratch kind of thing. So what I did was, knowing that I wanted to do this video and actually make the incense to show how easy it was, I threw out a question on my regular Facebook page. It wasn't on the Heart of the Witch's Path page. I threw out there, I need an intention to make incense. What do you think I should do? And what so many people talked about was, we need something for peace. We need something for happiness. We need something to help calm the situation down and things like that. And I'm like, that's a really, really good idea. And so that's the idea that I went with. So this is going to be a peace and happiness incense. Are you excited about this?
Sure.
All right. So for the purpose of this incense, because it's a new recipe and something that we're playing with, we're keeping the ingredients to 1 part each. Okay. And a part can be whatever you want it to be. If you want to make...
Let me just put in there that the gum that I'm putting in here, you don't put 1 part to each of the other parts. It's a smaller amount.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll talk about that when we get to your part, because that's an ingredient separate to the kind of incense that you're making. So, like I said, we're going to do 1 part of each of the herb matter. And so you can, if you want to make a big batch of it, then maybe your part is a cup. Or maybe if it's a recipe like this, maybe you want to use 1 spoonful. See, I have this spoon. This is an antique silver spoon that I use for all ritual, magical type things. And this just gives me, a measurement that is going to be the same. Hello, Nala.
Yeah, the cats are bugging me. It's dinner time, and also I have catnip on the table.
Yes. So what you're going to need is something to measure with. If you're using your fingers, then your fingers. If you've got, you have a dedicated set of measuring devices, right? For making these types of things, magic, salves, all that kind of stuff. I have those as well. I would suggest that your measuring device be either metal or glass or ceramic. I don't like using plastic in magical stuff.
Well, and some of the ingredients will kind of permeate the plastic, so it's much better to be using something that's metal. And also, even if you are using metal, you want something that's dedicated to not food.
Correct. Yeah, don't go pulling out your measuring spoons and then go make cookies.
Yeah, no.
Dedicate it. You also want some kind of a bowl. I've got this little glass Pyrex bowl. And I think this is probably like a 2-cup size.
Yeah, I don't even think this is a cup. I've got a whole bunch of these. I bought them at the dollar store.
Oh yeah, good place.
Hmm.
Okay. So, Kathy, do you have your list there?
I
Like
do
if
not.
I okay.
And nothing. I'm going by the seat of my pants. You're instructing and I'll make.
Okay. So, let's start off by so I went through my correspondence list and I looked for herbs slash plants that were on that list that I actually had in stock. And I didn't want to make this too elaborate, but we've got 4 items for happiness and 4 items for peace and 5 items for happiness. That's just how it worked out. You can go as many or as little as you want. If you're just getting into it, you might want to keep it simple. Okay. So we're doing the peace herbs first. So let's start with lavender. Lavender is our first herb, and lavender is actually both a peace and a happiness herb. So I want to keep things 1 part per. So I'm actually going to do 2 parts for this lavender. So I'm going to try to do.
Can I talk a minute about using herbs for a wet incense?
Go for it.
You want it to be as powdery as possible, which I had difficulties with because my coffee grinder, hey.
Did you go to sleep?
Yes. My coffee grinder would not grind the stuff. My food processor would not grind the stuff. So I ended up with the old mortar and pestle to do the best I could. I also used scissors to chop up a few of the ingredients better. Helen, next time, let's not go with such woody ingredients, please.
I always give my spoon a swipe before I dip it in something else. So I'm trying to go like level amounts in my parts. So this is what my 2 parts looks like.
Yeah, I went with less, but there it is.
Right. And that's okay. I mean, this is something it's a tryout. So you might find that once you get going and use this incense, it might be too much of something. And so feel free to cut back or add more of different ingredients. But what I would suggest is that you keep a documentation of what your recipe is, because nothing's sadder than having a great recipe and not remembering what you put on.
Right.
So the next item that we're using is oat straw. So oat straw is a real stocky type. Hopefully you can kind of see that. So I'm adding 1 part of that into my bowl. Oh, look, you got that nice and small.
Sort of.
And again, give your spoon a swipe. It's a good thing I gotta.
Yeah. See, I had already portioned it into these little bowls, so I just dumped.
So you're just look at you. You're so efficient. It's like you had the day off.
It's like I'm a Virgo or something.
The next ingredient in our piece list is skullcap. And I knew this was going to be an issue. Look at my spoon doesn't fit in my thing. So I'm going to have to pour it out. So skullcap. Interesting fun fact. I always link skullcap with fidelity.
And I could not get that to cut up very well at all. So we'll see how well this works.
Okay. Right. So like with a paste incense like this, you want it to be powdery. So you want to run it through something like a food processor, or a coffee grinder is really good. But again, coffee grinder, you're going to want to keep it dedicated for herb use.
And I tried a coffee grinder and didn't have much luck at all. So I don't know if it was a grinder or.
So the last piece herb that we're going to be using is vervain. So again, a level spoonful of that going in. Now, Oh, look at that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not showing much.
Okay, I
It's,
am.
it's kind of hard to tell. Now one thing that I'm gonna wait until we've got everything in there to do like some clearing and things like that. But if you wanted to clear each incense as you put it in, you could do that. I
Sure.
tend to wait. I tend to wait until I've got it all in there. But yeah. So those are our peace herbs. Now on to happiness.
Are we
This,
doing this all together in one?
yeah,
Okay, I thought we were making two separate. It's fine.
we are making two separate. You're making one, I'm making one.
Yeah, okay.
So the next is here's where the cats go crazy.
Oh God.
It's catnip time.
I had mine closed so that they wouldn't come out here.
I wanted to make sure I got some small pieces. So this is actually catnip that I grew here. And it smells good. I see why the cats like it. It's part of the mint family. Oh no, I think something dropped. Oh, that's a no bueno. Ugh. Guys, if you could see where I'm at right now, I'm like, I've got things all around me. I'm like boxed in. I dropped an ingredient and I don't know if I can get it. And it's the next one. So the next one is actually hawthorn. I have some hawthorn powder. And because I had powder that it's already in a powder form, you got that nice and ground up.
So the coffee grinder ground the berries just fine.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Maybe because they were kind of bigger to begin with, it gave it something to.
Right.
Yeah. So since these are kind of bulky herbs, I was only going to do like half the portion of the powder because it was powder. So it was going to be more concentrated. So I will add that hawthorn when I can get to it. I can kind of see it, but I don't want y'all to watch me climb down there. So let's just move on. The next item on the list is lemon balm, one of my favorite herbs. It smells so good. Again, lemon balm that I grew here. Ooh,
So
you got that nice and small too. Yep, so lemon balm goes in. And then the final ingredient is witch's grass.
Which did not cut up well at all.
Oh, it kind of looks like the oat straw.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? You could probably, once you have your parts like this, you know, if you were doing a small batch, maybe it would be easier to put everything in that coffee grinder or what have you afterwards so that you've got more bulk. Because, I mean, let's be real, a teaspoon of stuff, you're really not going to be able to get, it's not going to be able to do its job. So for the loose incense, then, all you want to do with this is give it a good mix. So I'm using my spoon, giving it a good mix. And then you're basically ready to go. So
with the other incense, the incense I'm making, you start out with the dry, which, can you see it? Here's the dry.
Yep.
But then you have to add some kind of a binder to it. Now, you can use a powdered resin, like this is myrrh. It's nice and powdery.
Okay. Yep. I see that.
Or you could use, you could get the actual resin myrrh and grind it yourself.
Right.
Frankincense, the same thing. Copal is another resin that you can grind up. But you can also buy the Guar de Mar. This is Guar de Mar. This is a binder that you could use to grind up. I've got the gum benzoin in the resin form that you could use.
I have powdered benzoin.
Yeah. Guar gum is another powder that you can use. I actually have some benzoin gum, which I looked at the correspondences, and it's happiness. So this is
cool.
what I'm going to use.
You know, I was going to ask you about benzoin when we were talking about doing this video, and for some reason the question never got vocalized.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. So I want the folks to know at home, if they're wondering what I'm doing over here, I'm actually getting a charcoal ready to burn, because the method that you're going to want to use to burn this loose incense is going to be by putting it on a charcoal. So I have a vessel here that I have sand in. And so I'm getting this lit because this takes a couple of minutes to get one of these going. So Cathy, what is your ratio then? Because you had said something at the top about
And not being as much.
right, not being as much. Oh, and I was going to ask too. In my research, I was seeing Mako as another binding
Mako
agent.
is a wood. It's like a sawdust of a specific wood.
Okay. Dude, I think my charcoal is like ready to go.
So the book has specific volumes that you put in, and I was just checking to see what they put in. I think I need to add a little bit more. I'm not sure. I'm flying by the seat of my pants here.
Okay.
I know it's not a 1-to-1, but then again, we've got quite a bit of dry ingredients here.
Right.
And I'm looking at it, and it doesn't look like I have very much in there at all, so I'm going to put a little more.
So maybe you want to start with, well, I mean, if you're something like this where we've got 8 or 9 different herbs, then maybe what you want to do is do a 1 part, because you've got so many parts.
All right. So another thing I have to add is distilled water.
And do you want to use distilled water?
To use distilled water, yes. I'm going to start with a little bit. Just, you probably can't see, just a little bit, maybe a quarter of a teaspoon.
Okay.
And I'm going to use a stick.
A craft stick to mix. Because do you want to touch this stuff?
No, in fact, I had my husband find me some gloves. That is absolutely not enough.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, doing something like this, you maybe could start with a teaspoon of water, or
maybe. I just added a bunch more. So it gets dry. It's almost like making pie crust type deal.
Okay. So you're looking for a consistency where
this is kind of balling up a little.
Mm-hmm.
I deliberately used this because I knew it was big enough you'd be able to see some stuff.
Right.
I don't think there's enough in here.
So you basically want to add a little bit of water at a time until you get the mixture to a consistency where, you know, if you pinch it together, it holds together, right?
Right.
But you don't want it like a true paste. You want it like a wet sand.
The more wet that you have in there, the more you have to let it dry.
Right. Because see, what's going to happen with this stuff is once she has it ready, she's going to put did you say that you were going to use the molds rather than shape it?
Yes. Although you can shape it into cones, they just don't always look the greatest. I don't know if you can see that.
Right. Yes, those are some that we made before.
Yeah, these are cleansing incense, I believe.
And we just used our fingers to shape them into a cone shape. I mean, you could probably find a mold that's a cone shape.
Yeah. See, this is sort of binding together, but it's still very dry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to add a little more water, and I'm going to do this left-handed. It's going to end badly.
I'm going to check I think my coal is started. Let me try a little bit here. So for those of you who've never burned a loose incense like this, yeah, okay, The whole thing isn't lit, but I should have grabbed 2 charcoal so that I could have one to hold up. But the charcoal, you buy them in a roll, okay, at your local New Age store, and they're probably going to have, at least 10 in a roll, and it's gonna be a round piece of charcoal, so it's going to be black, and it's going to have a concave. There's a convex and a concave. You want the concave side to put your that you light and that you put your incense in, because it acts as a cup, and so it holds it. My charcoal, I've only got like one. I thought I had a good weight to it, but I think only one side of it actually caught and is burning nicely.
Because the charcoal things are difficult and painful to use.
Yeah. Well, I thought that this one started nicely, but there's definitely an art form and a certain amount of patience that's required to use something like this. But it's very beneficial, and it's nice to have during ritual, because we actually went through with the coven, and we have, the recipes that I've done videos on for the different Sabbats, we made those and we've used those during Sabbats. So what you want to do to burn these is, okay, again, I've got my container. Now, one thing, let's talk about your container. You want something that's flame proof, something with legs like this has is nice because it keeps it off your surface, and therefore if heat gets down to this, it's less likely to burn the surface of your whatever you happen to put it on, a bookshelf, an altar, or what have you. I suggest putting sand in this. I actually have my sand level is probably about right there. So it's a good third of the way up. And the cool thing about using something like this is you can put, I almost dropped it. That would have been a mess and a danger. You can burn any kind of incense in something like this. And that's why I went to using this to begin with. I actually have I have sticks in here from spent sticks. So you can stick them right in the sand and they stand up. You can put a charcoal in here. You could put an incense cone in on the top and it'll burn. So I can't really, look what I can do, because I can take my spoon and this is what the charcoal looks like. So to burn your incense on this, all you got to do is take some of your incense and just put it right on. That was a lot of incense. But see how we've got the smoke coming up, so now it's burning. So now I am issuing my intention out. Now, where are you at in your process?
So I think I probably could have used more binder. It is sticking together.
Okay.
You can see it staying. I don't want to use too much more water because it won't dry. It won't dry quickly. But I'm going to put this into a mold.
Okay.
So I'm going to take this one here by my fingers because it's kind of deep.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I would have preferred this to be a lot more powdery form. Can you see what I'm doing? So I'm just gonna push it in.
So it's almost like you're packing brown sugar.
Right.
Okay.
If it was powdery, it would work better, but because there's so much woody stuff in here, it's not working really well. And that's why I didn't want to do a cone, because I knew it wouldn't,
right,
as woody as this is.
And why you're doing one of the bigger shapes.
Yeah. So I'm going to do this one as well, because it's pretty deep.
Right. Yeah, we can't really, you can kind of see some of the details. We'll see what it looks like when we actually post it. So now comes kind of like the question, because so I talked about, releasing the intent with the smoke, but we haven't really done anything yet to charge this incense for our intention. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a moment, and you're going to, how I normally do this is I will hold my dominant hand. I am left-handed. I will hold my dominant hand over the mixture, okay? And I will start to think about whatever my intention is. I am going to start building within me by pulling from the heavens and from up from the earth. I'm going to start collecting energy, swirling in my center. And I'm going to project that energy, that intent, down through my hand and into this incense. This incense is for bringing happiness. It is for bringing peace. It is for, alleviating anxiety even. That's what part of this process is. And depending on when you're making this, you want to think about the moon cycle and where you're at. A waxing moon is when you want to draw things to you. So I'm thinking about bringing peace and bringing happiness, not only into my life, but into the world in general. That's my intent with this incense. Now, if we were making this during the waning moon, then you want to concentrate on eliminating those energies that are keeping happiness and peace out of the area. Okay. So, I actually like to do an incantation to charge incense. I don't like to say the actual words of power in video. I think that's kind of weird. So I am going to I actually have an incantation for doing during the waxing moon and one for during the waning moon. I'm going to make a separate blog post, and I'm going to put those incantations there. And so you can, and I'll have a link in the description box so you can go find it. I will also put some words of power on that post that will, that you can use if you choose when burning this incense. Okay. And you don't need to use those words of power. If you've charged it, I consider that it's ready to go. Okay. And then the last thing that you want to do is you want to put it in something for storage. Are you there? Are you okay?
Yeah.
So you want to put something. Okay. So you want to put it in a jar or something for storage. So I have this upcycled jar from a candle that I'm just going to put that in. And then you want to make sure to label this, write on a label. I don't care if it's a piece of masking tape or a pretty sticker or whatever, label it and put the date so that you know when you made it. And then that can go in your stash. And when you're having the need for bringing peace and happiness into your life, you got something ready to go.
So I want to talk a little more about the wet incense that I made. They recommend that you use a warm water, which I did not, because it helps in the drying process. It does have to dry for up to a couple of weeks. You want to put it somewhere where it's not in direct sunlight. It's not in a humid environment. It's not somewhere your pets are going to be able to get into it or your kids. Just keep it in a cool, dry place. And once it's dry, it will pop out of the molds.
Very easily.
And actually, if you're using mold incense, you could probably, like tomorrow, I may be able to pop these out of the mold. Because I don't think I used enough binder. I don't know that. I might wait till next week to pop it out because of course it'll dry faster when it's not in the mold. And then as soon as it's completely dry, then you can burn it in the same way that Helen burned her loose incense. You put it on the charcoal and you light it up. Well, you light the charcoal and you put the incense on your
right. Yeah. Now, will those shapes, if you were to just light the shape, would it burn?
It depends on how well you made the incense.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have a proper amount of wood in it, and this book does talk about that, about having the woody material to burn, resins will usually burn very well. If you've got the proper proportions of everything, you can just burn one of those. Again, you want to do it safely. You want to do it on sand. You want to do it in a container. You want to make sure that, you know, you're not going to burn the house down by lighting a piece of incense. But you can also do things like throw it in a fire.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. One thing that we should probably say is never leave incense unattended. You know, it's like a candle. Never leave incense unattended if it's burning, especially if you're using a charcoal, because this piece of charcoal can burn for a long time.
And you want to make sure if you're burning charcoal that you have enough, what's the word I'm looking for? Ventilation?
Yeah, because it will produce a lot of smoke.
Well, it's not just smoke, it's carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. You want to make sure adequate ventilation so that you're not risking health and safety.
Right. And I'm actually trying to bury this. I don't know if this is going to work. If I bury it in the sand, will it put it out?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Like flip it over and put it in the sand, and it should be, you know,
smother it.
Smother. Thank you. Can't believe I couldn't remember that. So, I think we've covered. Now, the method that Cathy used, you can use that method to make stick incense as well. And I believe you can find bamboo sticks.
You can.
On like Amazon. And
if you make the stick right, you don't have to have a stick in it. I have seen incense that you could buy that didn't have a stick.
And that's probably where you could use that extruder.
Yeah, that's what the extruders could be good for. It's just that whatever you use to hold the incense may not burn that last little bit because you've got something holding it.
Right. And that's why I like sand, because my favorite incense is an incense that doesn't have a stick. Mm-hmm. And so I just stick it in the sand, and just knowing that there's about a half an inch or so of the stick that won't burn.
Yeah.
So, and that's okay, because it goes in the sand, and, you know, you could sift it out. You could, you know, put it in your magical refuse, you know, whatever. Yeah. So
if you've got a little left. So yeah.
Yeah. So if Cathy, Helen, I think we've come to the end of our time together.
I think so. I think it's time to order dinner.
So, what should the peeps do if they liked or learned something from this video?
Oh, totally. Thumbs up and subscribe. Absolutely.
Yes.
Also, hey, if you've got a suggestion about a good herb grinder for me, I'm looking for one right now because obviously this coffee grinder is not going to get it. And I would like to be making more incense, especially, since we can't go anywhere and, do anything
Yeah.
because pandemic.
Right. So, like, subscribe. If you've made incense, we want to hear about it. Let us know in the comments.
Or email us at
heartofthewitchespath@yahoo.com.
right.
There will be links in the description box for the Facebook page, for our Instagrams, and things like that. Cathy,
Helen.
it's been so good.
It has.
Even though it was a bit of a gnarly mess to get us started here, thank you for helping me with this.
No problem. Sorry mine didn't work out as well as I was hoping it would.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to do stuff like this, especially when we're kind of splitting what we're doing. But hey, give it a shot, guys, and let us know.
So when this is dry, I will post a picture on my Instagram, but it'll be a couple weeks.
Yeah. Maybe like try burning one too and showing that too.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Because I bet you with like, if someone's concerned about the size of that, I bet you it's big enough that you could break it.
Yeah, they are generally, yeah.
And do like and burn a smaller piece.
Yeah, and there are, I don't know how well you can see the mold, there are smaller pieces in here if you want to just make a little bit, but because of the size, I don't know if that's clear, the size of the wood in there and the pieces, the vegetation.
Yeah.
I didn't want to try to stick it in the smaller pieces.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks guys for watching. Thank you, Cathy, for helping. And until the next time, thanks for walking the path for a little while with me. Blessed be.
Blessed be.